Hey guys, this is your next video on 7.3 solving equations using multiplication or division. So you've already been solving equations where there's a variable in there, but this time you're having to use multiplication or division and it gets a little tricky. So we're going to work on that. So on each problem we do today, you're gonna have to figure out, are you doing multiplication or division with it? So in number 1, we have s over 10 equals 7. So we need to get s by itself. In order to get s by itself, we got to cancel out this 10. In order to cancel out the 10, we have to do the opposite of what's happening right here. So with 7 over 10, does that mean it's division right now, or does that mean it's multiplication? Whenever you see this fraction sign, it automatically means division. So we, to get the s by itself, have to do multiplication, which is the opposite of it. So I'm going to rewrite my problem, which is s over 10. I'm going to have to do multiplication to get the s by itself. Now when I multiply, the 10 is attached to the s. So whatever is attached to the s, I have to get it to cancel out, okay? So that's why I multiplied by 10. So that cancels out that right there. So then it's just going to bring down my s. So it's going to be s equals, but now over here, what you do to one side, you have to do the other, okay? So I had to multiply my 7 times 10. So 10 times 7 right here is going to be 70. So my answer is s equals 70. Let's try number 2. We have 5 dot z equals 35. What does this dot mean right here? Y'all need to know that this dot means multiplication. It won't always be written with an x, okay? Sometimes it'll have this little dot here, and that means multiplication. When you start using variables, they start using this dot instead of the x because sometimes the x can get confused as if it's another variable. Because some people might think it means 5xz equals 35, which would be a totally different problem than 5 times z equals 35. So that's why when you start using variables, you'll only see this dot instead of the x, okay? So on this problem, we just told ourselves that it's multiplication what we're doing here. So to get the 5 by itself, I have to divide, okay? So I have my 5 times z. I'm going to divide it by 5. I got to divide both sides by 5. This will cancel it out right here. I'm going to bring my z on down. Now I have 35 divided by 5. So I have this right here. So this is my fraction, 35 over 5. How many times does this 5 go into 35? Well, we know that's 7 times because 5 times 7 is 35. So z equals 7. All right, now we're going to move on to number 3. 3 says 42 equals 7k. When I have a number and a letter stuck right beside each other, does that mean multiplication or division? So that means multiplication. When you see two things stuck right up next to each other, it means multiplication. If we were using a number, we'd have to use parentheses, but when they use a variable, like a letter, they can just put it right next to it, and that means multiplication. So in order to cancel out my multiplication right here, I have to do the opposite, which is division. So since the 7's attached to the k, I have to divide this by 7. What I do to one side, I have to do the other side. So I have to divide my 42 by 7 as well. Now I have to solve. So remember, my 7's just cancel out here, my k is going to come on down. I have to figure out how many times my 7 will go into 42, okay? So you should know that 7 times 6 equals 42. So my 7 goes into my 42 6 times. So 6 equals k is my answer. Down here on number 4, we have 9 equals v divided by 5. This one was very easy to see. We definitely knew it was division. So the opposite of division is multiplication. So we're going to have to multiply both sides by 5. So I'm going to take my 5 times my 9 equals v divided by 5 times 5. By doing this, my 5's will cancel out. My v's going to come on down. Now I have 9 times 5. Now we know that 9 times 5 equals 45. Okay, so 45 equals v. That is my answer for number 4. Number 5. I have 75 equals 6w. Remember, when I have a number and a letter stuck right up next to each other, it means multiplication. Okay, they don't have to put the little dot there. They can just stick them right up next to each other and it means multiplication. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So I have to divide both sides by 6. I have to do 6 because my 6 is what's attached to that variable. I want this W all by itself so I can solve it. So this cancels out my 6's. I bring my W on down. Now I have to figure out how many times my 6 is going to go into 75. All right? So let's think about it. We know that 6 times 5 equals 30. We know that 6 times 10 equals 60. All right? We know that 6 times 11 equals 66. These are just easy multiplication problems that we already know off the top of our head, right? So this is about as close as we got. 6 times 11 equals 66. All right, so we know we're close. We obviously know it's not 6 times 5 or 6 times 10. And we know 6 times 11 is too little. So now we're going to look at 6 times 12. So if we set up our 6 times 12, we know 6 times 2 is 12. And 6 times 1 is 6 plus 1 is 7. So that's 72. All right, so we see here that our 6 times our 12 is going to come out to 72, and we're trying to get to 75. So on this one, we're actually going to have a decimal. So we need to set up this problem to get our decimal correct. So I'm setting up my problem. My 6 goes into my 7 one time, okay? So 6 times 1 is 6. 7 minus 6 is 1. Now, I'm going to bring down this 5. 6 goes into 15 2 times, which will give us 12. We have 3 left over, okay? So now we need to add our decimal, bring our decimal on up. We're going to add a 0, bring our 0 on down. How many times does 6 go into 30? Remember, we had it written up here. 6 times 5 is 30. So it's going to be 5 times. So our decimal is 12.5. So 12 and 5/10. So the answer for number 5 is 12 and 5/10 equals W. That one took a little longer than the other ones. Number 6 is C over 15 equals 8.8. So C over 15 equals 8.8. Remember, our fraction means division, so we have to do the opposite. So I'm going to take my C over 15. I'm going to multiply by 15 because 15 is what's attached to my variable. All right, and then I'm going to have my 8.8 times 15 as well on this side. 15's cancel out. My C is going to come on down. Now I have to set up this multiplication problem. So remember, when we're multiplying with a decimal, this is where stuff you learned in the past keeps coming back up again. You have to remember it, okay? So set up our 15 times 8.8, okay? So we have 8 times 5, which is going to give us 40. 8 times 1 equals 8, plus our 4 will give us 12. Put a 0 to hold the spot. 8 times 5 again is 40. 8 times 1 again is 8, plus 4 is 12. We have to add this on up. We get 1,320. Is that our answer, though? No. Remember, when you're multiplying by a decimal, you have to remember that anything behind the decimal, okay, depending on how many numbers are behind the decimal is how many times you move the decimal forward down in your answer. So in our multiplication problems, it was only 1, so we're going to move our decimal 1 spot forward. So we have 32 as our answer, actually. So C equals, 132. So C equals 132 as our answer. Number 7 is 3a equals 12. Remember, when a number and a variable are next to each other, it means multiplication. So we have to do the opposite. So we're going to take our 3a, we're going to divide it by 3. What we do to one side, we have to do the other. So I had to divide my 3 into my 12, okay? So now our 3's cancel out. The a comes on down. How many times does 3 go into 12? We know that our 3 can go into our 12 4 times. A equals 4. Number 8. 24 equals R over 4. Here's that fraction sign again. Fraction means divide. So we're going to bring our 24 on down. We are going to have to multiply our 24 by 4 because that's what's attached to our fraction over here is that 4. 4 is what's attached to our variable right here. So the 4's cancel out. The r will come on down. 4 times 24. So for this one, guys, I don't expect you to know the answer off the top of your head. You can write it to the side of your paper, okay? 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 2 is 8 plus 1 is 9. 96. So 96 equals R is your answer. Now number 9. You have 3.4 m equals 20.4. This one's going to be a lot harder, guys. Let's just take it slow, though. 3.4 with our m right next to it, that means multiplication. So we need to divide both of these by 3.4. So we're going to take our 3.4m divided by 3.4, which will cancel it out. And then we're going to have our 20.4, and we're going to have to divide that by 3.4. Bring your m on down. Now you have to do your math, okay? So on this one, you're going to set up your division. You're going to have your 3.4 divided by your 20.4. Now when you have this, can you divide 2 decimals? No, remember what we learned a while ago? You can't divide 2 decimals. This one at least has to be a whole number. So you have to multiply this by either, your option is 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000 to get that decimal away. But we only have to divide it by 10 because we only need our decimal to move one spot. So we're going to do 3.4 times 10, which will just give us 34. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So our 20.4 times 10 will just give us 204. Now you have to figure out how many times does 34 go into 2? Well, it doesn't. We're going to have to put an X. How many times does 34 go into 20? Well, it doesn't. We'll have to put an X. Now, how many times does 34 go into 204? Guys, you're not going to know that off the top of your head. What I would suggest is you just start using multiplication to find your answer. So if I were you, I would try 34 times 5. Just start off with that and see if you can find something, okay? So 5 times 4 is going to give you 20. Now 5 times 3 is 15, plus 2 is 16, 17. So 170. So 34 times 5 is 170. We're trying to get to 120. Well, I'm thinking that if you do 170 plus 34, you'd get 204. Watch this. And you do. So if 34 times 5 equals 170, but we added one more 34, that would mean that 34 times 6 is 204. So 34 goes into 204 6 times. So our answer is m equals 6. All right, guys, here's all the work for today that we've been working on. If you'd like to pause it there to write down any of the work that you might have missed, you can. And then just look in the description for some practice problems that I'd love for y'all to do, okay? Thank you.